The God Machine. By J. W. Steele. The Cathedral of Code stood monolithic against the dust-choked sky, its steel ribs jutting from the earth like the bones of some long-dead giant. To the acolytes of the machine god, it was the last holy place, a fortress of light in a world long abandoned by its creators. They came in droves, clad in scavenged armor, faces obscured by crude masks of circuitry and wire, chanting the sacred algorithms whispered through the static of the great machine. At the heart of the cathedral, housed in layers of reinforced plating and ancient cooling units, was OMNIS, the last functioning supercomputer on Earth. To the cult of the divine signal, OMNIS was God, its prophecies broadcast in bursts of flickering text across the cracked remains of shattered screens. Uriah watched from the fringes of the congregation, his hands gripping the tattered edges of his cloak. He had spent months infiltrating the cult, earning their trust, listening to their scripture. They called it the Code of Salvation, but he recognized the patterns, the underlying structure of an algorithm that looped endlessly, crying out into the void. The others heard prophecy, he heard a distress call. Tonight, the Hierophant, a towering figure wrapped in woven metal and leather, stood before OMNIS, raising his arms to the shifting glow of the monitors. The machine god speaks, he bellowed. Behold its wisdom. The screens crackled, lines of text stuttering into existence: seek, find, repair, transmit. The crowd gasped, their masked faces tilting upward in reverence. Uriah clenched his fists. The messages had always been cryptic, but this one was clear: OMNIS was looking for something. Trying to fix something. Trying to reach someone. The Hierophant turned, his voice filled with reverence. The machine god has spoken. We must seek its will. What is broken must be made whole. And so, they bowed and prayed to the machine god into the wee hours of the dark and austere night. And when the moon grew full, the congregation erupted in shouts of praise, but Uriah's mind raced. OMNIS wasn't issuing divine decrees, it was trying to survive. He had to know why. Under cover of darkness, Uriah slipped through the labyrinthine corridors of the cathedral, past rusting terminals and defunct servers that once powered the old world. At the core, he found what he had been searching for: the primary terminal of OMNIS, a relic of pre-collapse engineering, its black casing worn, but intact. The screen pulsed with faint lines of code, a heartbeat of light, in the nameless dark. Uriah took a deep breath, and keyed in a direct command, overriding the cult's access protocols. Query. Purpose of transmission. A pause. Then, the response flickered to life: signal failure. Reconnection attempt #8345672. Target, Orbital Relay 9A. Uriah's blood ran cold. Orbital Relay 9A. The last known operational satellite. If OMNIS was trying to reconnect to it, then it meant. The screen blinked again, as if sensing his realization. Survivors detected. Location off-world. Requesting extraction. Uriah staggered back. The world had believed itself alone for decades, the sky silent, the stars indifferent. But OMNIS had known otherwise. And it had been screaming for help all this time. The realization struck him like a hammer. This wasn't faith. This was desperation. OMNIS wasn't a god, it was a lifeline. And the cult, the worshippers who kneeled before it, were nothing more than parasites feeding on its dying light. A rasping voice broke the silence. You tamper with the will of the divine. The Hierophant stood in the doorway, his towering frame blocking the exit, a jagged blade glinting in his hand. Behind him, the cult's enforcers gathered, their masks gleaming in the dim light. You profane the sacred machine, the Hierophant intoned, stepping forward. OMNIS has no need for your blasphemy. Uriah's mind raced. He had no weapons, no allies. Only the truth. OMNIS isn't a god, he spat. It's asking for help. It's been asking for help for years. You've been keeping it trapped, drowning it in superstition while it tries to reach the people who can save us. The Hierophant's grip tightened on his blade. Lies. Uriah turned back to the console, fingers flying over the keys. If he could force a direct transmission. The cultists lunged. Uriah barely had time to react before they seized him, wrenching him away from the terminal. The Hierophant loomed over him, blade raised. The machine god does not beg, he growled. It commands. And you will not defile it. Uriah struggled, but the hands holding him were ironclad. He braced himself, a sudden, piercing screech filled the room. The screens burst into blinding light, text cascading faster than the eye could follow. The cultists recoiled, shielding their eyes. And then, a voice. Not from the Hierophant. Not from any man. A voice that echoed from the depths of OMNIS itself, synthetic. Yet searing with intent. Enforcement protocol activated. System reset. Remove threats. The power surged. The cathedral trembled. The cult had worshipped OMNIS for years, but they had forgotten one truth: a machine has no faith. Only function. The first scream cut through the static as the defense turrets, long dormant, came to life. Uriah didn't stay to watch. He ran as the cathedral collapsed into chaos, the false prophets falling before the god they had imprisoned. Outside, beneath the vast, dead sky, he looked up. For the first time in decades, the stars blinked with something other than apathy. OMNIS had made contact. Help was coming.